Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to do a new game to me, but a rather old game as far as games go, released in 1974, which would make this game 46 years old, I believe. This game is called King Oil. It was produced by Milton Bradley, ages 9 to adult or 9 and up. And the game is actually pretty simple. It's about purchasing properties, which are divided by these property lines, the black dotted lines, and you drill on your property into these little black dots. Let me zoom in here a little bit. You drill with this tool right here, driving it into these little holes and hoping to strike oil. Now, on the one hand, the color that the drill produces, see, that's the drill. The color doesn't really matter as long as the color comes out. So red, you'll have to pay the bank more for borrowing the drill. Blue, you won't have to pay as much. And yellow, you'll have to pay less. But as long as they are producing, then you'll use these pieces right here that look very much like the drill, which are called derricks. You will use those pieces to signify that it is a producing well. If you don't get any oil, so you stick this in the hole and no color comes out, then what you'll have to do is take one of these, which are called caps, and you will set it over that hole, signifying that it's already been dug into, it's already been drilled into, and there's no oil from it. So let's go ahead and move that off of here. So this is the board, King Oil. Each property costs anywhere between $8,000 and $12,000. There are a couple 9s, a couple 10s, a couple of 11s, but most of them are 8s and 12s. You begin the game with $80,000, and you go around selecting which property you want to purchase at the beginning of the game, and whoever selects the highest one. So, for example, if you choose a 12,000 and she chooses an 8,000, whoever spends the most at the beginning gets to go first. But if you're playing with 4 players, which this game is for 2 to 4 players, and someone picks an 8, someone picks a 10, and then 2 people pick 12,000 and 12,000, then these 2 tie, cancel each other out, and then the $10,000 person actually gets to go first. And this game has, if I counted correctly, has 1,331 different possibilities. So, at the beginning of the game, you'll spin this an indeterminate amount of times to the left or right, and then you spin this one any number of times left or right, and then you spin the bottom one. Now, just for this, since this game's not been played, I'm not going to actually spin the bottom one right now. And what I meant by counted was I looked at this one here and spun it until this one came back around. And I'm pretty sure I counted 11. So 11 times 11 times 11 is 1,331 pieces, different combinations. This drill, as I was saying, would go into that hole, and as soon as it's flush with the game board, it'll tell you whether it's producing oil or not. So that hole doesn't produce any oil. You would cap it. This one does produce oil, but it shows blue, which means you have to pay $4,000 for borrowing the drill because you had to drill further into the ground than, say, a yellow one. So let's see if we can find, there we go. So this one here is showing yellow, which means, yeah, that's showing yellow. Okay, so that means because the top, it's so shallow, it means that the this piece right here probably doesn't have a hole in it. So because it's so shallow, you would only pay the bank $2,000. If you drilled and got red or nothing, it means you had to borrow the drill longer, drilled deeper, so you used parts or you wore parts down, or, you know, the idea of realism. So for drilling and getting either red oil or no oil, you have to pay the bank $6,000. And then it comes with 32 wildcat cards at the beginning of your turn, after paying penalties that I will explain in a moment. You'll draw the top card, and you'll do whatever it says. So, for example, this section is telling you that you get $3,000 per producing well. And again, wells, if you have oil, is signified by a derrick. So for each of these that you have on your property or properties, you collect $3,000 per derrick. This here says you can drill 1 or 2 more times. So on your turn, you would pay to borrow the drill again, and hopefully strike oil. You have to announce how many times you're going to do it, 1 or 2. If you don't drill that many times, can't drill that many times because you run out of money, or you drill too many times, there are penalties that you must pay. And then this one, the bottom section tells you how many properties are currently for sale. So let's go to the next one. Nope. And the next one. So royalty, you get $1,000 per derrick. You can drill 1 well. You must drill, if it tells you that you're allowed to drill, you must drill at least 1 time per turn. If it says 0, then you can't. And then property for sale 1 doesn't mean you have to purchase any, but you can. So if you own this one, you could go directly beside it, try to keep people out of this property, or you could go completely across the board if you wanted to. There are 4 very different colors, thankfully. Blue, yellow, white, and then red. And it comes with all these little pieces. So I had these kind of organized here. So as you can see, these are all the derricks, these are all the sheds, which you will use at the beginning of the game, or whenever you purchase a property, you'll put your shed there to signify that that's your property, no one else is allowed to drill there, and that you currently own it. Even if you're not drilling in it for a while, you can still have up to 6 properties that have a shed on it and not even be drilling in those. And then comes with these caps. So you would set a cap in the hole if it was non-producing. The derricks, which you would set in a hole if it is producing. And then finally you have pipelines, which you would set in a hole. Well, actually, I don't even think they have to go in a hole, but they sit nicely in the holes. And you can either set it here or here to signify that you're going from your property to someone else's property. And by doing that, what's happening is you are actually paying for the pipeline, which is $25,000. And then every time during this person's turn, like whoever you have this one laid into, during this person's turn, they have to pay you based on how many pipelines you have running into their property. So for this pipeline, they would have to pay you $1,000 per oil producing well. If you had 2 pipelines, again, I don't think they have to lay in the holes. But if you have 2, then they have to pay you $3,000 per producing oil well. And if you have 3 lines, it's $5,000 per oil producing well. So for example, in this one right here, blue would have to pay red $5,000 times 2. Or $3,000 times 2, or $1,000 times 2. Now, if you have, let's say you're blue, and you're tired of paying this person, you cannot do that to try to get them to get it to balance out, but you can go from this property to a different property. And most properties have several that surround them. So it's not just a simple square grid where it's above, below, side, or side. Most of these have several properties that you can go into. So it can go like that or like that. And you can only have a maximum of 3 leaving any one property. So for red, let me bring these pipelines back up here. You could do this and this, presuming that they have wells that are producing. So you could do that. Or you could do that, which means that he doesn't pay you anything. He pays you $3,000 and she pays you $1,000. Or again, you could do this and maybe have a partnership with one of these two where they don't mess with you, but you don't mess with them. And then maybe you guys are trying to get rid of yellow. Whatever. I don't have to explain to you how to partner up in a game. I've had plenty of people do that against me. The game comes with 32 cards, the Wildcat cards. I don't know how many pieces are supposed to be included in the game. I've counted, and 2 of the colors have 32 caps, and 2 of them have 31. Everybody has 6 sheds. I've counted the derricks, and there are 20 or 21. 20 in 2 of the colors, 21 in 2 of the colors. And then the pipelines, there are 8 in 2 of the colors and 9 in 2 of the colors. And these are all different combinations. The only other card that we didn't talk about is this one here. There are 2 of these in the deck, which is funny because I just drew both of them for this example. Sorry about that. So these here say that there's fire damage. If you own 1 to 5 wells, you must cap 1. So they don't all have to be in this one property. If you own these 2 properties or these 3 properties, then as long as you have at least 5, you have to cap 1. If you own 6 to 10 wells, then you must cap 2. And if you own 11 or more, you must cap 3. So what it's saying is that there's a fire, you have to cap it, and you can't produce oil from that well anymore. So, and remember the count that it's looking for. If you own 1 to 5 wells, it's anywhere on the board, not just in one property. And then you get to pick which ones you want. So you can only have a pipeline coming from your property into someone else's property if you meet the requirements, which are, give me 1 second. One property must have 4 producing oil wells. So you have to have 4 of these derricks on property in order for you to go from here to here. It doesn't matter how many they have. They could have 0 or they could have more than you. But you have to have at least 4 to get 1 pipeline. 5 of these to get 2 pipelines. Or 6 or more of these to get 3 pipelines. If there's a fire and you have to close down one of these, then you must also remove the pipeline if you no longer qualify for it. So there's all that. And like I said, the sheds are for signifying which properties you've bought. But once you have your other pegs in the properties, they'll already your opponents will already know that that's your property. But you can use the shed when you're not drilling to signify, hey, this property's bought, you can't drill here. And then the game comes with all of this money, 500, 1,000, 5,000, and 10,000. comes with a rule book, which is actually pretty comprehensive, which I would expect it to be. The only thing that it doesn't specify is that you can or cannot buy properties right next to each other. I mean, obviously you can. So the only thing I'm surprised about is because today's games, like in Small World, once you're here, you have to go to an adjacent tile or an adjacent space. You can't just bounce all over the map. But in King Oil, you can, which makes sense. It's much more realistic that way. There are 8 pages of this rulebook, which is not too bad, very understandable. And then here on the last page, it has examples of how to handle pipelines. And then it shows you what everything looks like. Again, it does not come with a count of anything except for the Wildcat cards. 2 fire cards and 30 Wildcat cards. The money I don't have a count for. The pieces I don't have a count for. I would guess that since there are 6 sheds for every color, that maybe it was supposed to be 6. And then at the beginning of the game, everyone gets a tray that has their pieces in it, and they get to hold on to that tray for the game. And at the beginning of the game, this here gets switched again. So many places this way, so many places this way. Whichever direction you want to go, it doesn't matter. It's up to the players. And you know, you might want to be fair about that. Like, hey, I'm going to move this one. How many do you want to move? I'm going to move this one. How many do you want to move? And I'm going to move this one, and I pick, or whatever. So I think that's about it. The winner of the game is either the last player to still be playing. Like if you run out of money, just like in the in Monopoly, if you run out of money, then you're eliminated from the game. Now, different from Monopoly is that you keep playing Monopoly. You don't keep playing Monopoly. You're supposed to stop and count up to see who wins. With King Oil, you play until there's only one player or until the bank runs out of money. And if the bank runs out of money, then everyone counts up what they're currently worth. Your properties, your pipelines, 25,000 each. Your wells, I don't remember how much each. 6,000, I think. Or 4,000. 4,000 each. Which is right here on the last page. Your pipelines are 25, your wells are 4,000, which is just an average price. $2,000, $4,000, and $6,000 each. And then any money that the bank would have owed you this turn if the bank had not run out of money. And then you count up all the money that you currently have, and whoever has the most wins. So, like I said, it looks like a pretty fun game. We actually bought this for her father, my wife's father, for his birthday because he mentioned it to me one time, and I just happened to run into it. So I thought he might like it. I hope he does. This video may never get posted if he doesn't want me to post it, but I'm sure it'll get posted. If anyone happens to have any more complete rules or counts of any of the money or pieces, then I encourage you to leave that in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, take care of each other, play games. Much love.